Alright, this will be my second time trying to record this, due to issues with, first of all, people outside my house talking and being really loud and obscuring my first recording, and me kind of just having a complete brain freeze at one point and just kind of like going quiet during mid-recording. But I think based on the title of the recording, you should be able to see it something like, I don't know, my prequel experience or something like that. Also, in my first attempt, I kind of rambled for a long time about one particular thing that I think maybe I should just kind of tone down a little bit before I put it out there and people kind of see I go a little nuts, or how nuts I actually am. And, you know, because again, nobody but me cares about this type of crap. I might as well be the one to talk about it. For these videos, it's just going to be 3, obviously, because there's 3 prequels, and each one's going to be about their respective prequel, episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3, and I talk about how I came upon the movie, what I think about the movie right now, and why I don't care about people's opinions about the movie, and that's basically it. And what I mean by I don't care about people's opinions of the movie, is not because I don't care about other people's opinions, and it's not because I hate other people's opinions, and it's not because I don't think people don't have the right to their own opinion. It's because, frankly, when it comes to people and these movies and their opinions, there's no helping that these movies have been so trashed by people who find it very convenient for themselves to harp on these 3 movies because it's popular. There's no changing their opinion. There's no changing other people's opinion. And even if you try to go down the middle road and say, okay, yeah, the movies are either bad, but I like parts of it. No, you can't do that according to original trilogy fans. Or if you say, I like them, but there are some parts I hate. Again, original trilogy fans seem to think that only their goddamn opinion matters and nobody else's. And, you know, excuse me if I curse a little throughout this video. Some people seem to think that I can't be taken seriously if I curse a little too much. Well, you know what? I curse like a sailor. I can't help it. I first came upon the Star Wars films with episode 5. A family friend got me a VHS tape back when VHSs were still being used quite often in VCRs. As a little kid, I didn't know what to think of it. I thought it was kind of a grown-up movie. I didn't want to watch it because it was a grown-up movie. I don't know why he got it for me. Then one day out of curiosity, I put it in. I ended up loving it. Darth Vader and all that. Darth Vader became my obsession. And then one day when Blockbuster was still a thing, I was taken in there and I saw Star Wars Episode 1. And I knew the title. I was like, oh, Star Wars. I was like, I know about that. I saw Episode 4, 5, and 6. And then I saw 1. And I thought maybe 2 and 3 were missing because when I was a kid and I was like, oh, I guess since I saw 5 and here's 1, they must already be all out. I didn't realize that no, only 1 was out at this point. We're still waiting for 2 and 3. So I rented episode 1 and I completely loved it. And I'm not going to apologize for loving it now, loving it back then. Admittedly, some of it, a lot of it, may have to be with nostalgia purposes, or nostalgia reasons. But again, I'm not going to apologize for that. Because even if it was purely nostalgia, that doesn't explain how I can still like it. Because, you know, you can still be nostalgic for a movie and realize that it's crap, and you can own up to that. But I still argue that episode 1 is not nearly as bad as people want to claim it is, and still feel nostalgia for it. So I'm not gonna go for the easy, it's my guilty pleasure excuse, because it's not a guilty pleasure. I'm not gonna feel guilty over something that I like. And if you like something, you shouldn't be made to feel guilty over it. The only reason you feel guilty over liking something is because other people try to tell you that in some way you aren't allowed, or you shouldn't be allowed, or you're wrong for liking something. Well, if you're going to let other people dictate to you what you should and should not like, well then have fun with the rest of your life, because peer pressure will just make you realize that you can't have fun with anything, anywhere, ever. So, To you people who want me to change my opinions on the prequels purely to make yourself feel better on your own opinions, go fuck yourselves. I know the majority of people who are going to be listening to this video won't think that because they already accept I'm a prequel fan and they like to hear my rants and raves about why I'm a prequels fan. But, you know, if anyone ever came across these videos and just thinks, oh, this guy's a dickhead because he likes the prequels, well then fine, think I am. I'm not going to change my opinions based purely on the fact that you personally don't like a set of movies. Okay? I mean, if some asshole came up to you and he said, I don't like the originals, and you're wrong for liking them, are you going to care? No, because you know you have the grand majority of people at your back to defend you for why the originals are such great movies. But prequels fans, oh, it's easy to shit on them because they don't have feelings, they don't have personal opinions. Well, you know, go fuck yourself. I don't care. Just putting that out there. That aside, some of the music is great in my opinion. Some of the acting is obviously stilted, and some of the CGI doesn't hold up that well today. I do, however, maintain that a lot of the CGI in the film looks still to me today fine. I just saw the film recently, and I thought, oh, that works. They still use some, suits for aliens. They still use some of that. They use the Neomordians. They always used suits for them. I don't get why they didn't use it for all of them, but yeah, they're choice of George Lucas. Now, see, okay, if I want to give an example, one place I really started to notice the CGI isn't holding up that well is the Battle at the Grassy Plains, or the Great Battle of the Plains, where the droids are marching towards the Gungans inside their little bubble shields, and if you look really hard at the Gungan army, it's they're all completely frozen. It's like the droids are marching towards a freaking JPEG. But, I try to focus on the fact that the droids are marching rather than the Gungans because the droids are a lot more badass than the Gungans. And that was another thing. For the longest time, as a little kid, and even today, I looked at the stormtroopers, and then I looked at the battle droids, and I'm like, why are the stormtroopers considered such cool enemies? The droids are a lot more interesting, but whatever. People love stormtroopers and their goofy, ugly-ass white armor, but the droids are horrible because, oh my god, their voices are squeaky, and, that was kind of a symptom of cartoons, first of all, and George Lucas's kidding down of the droids, admittedly. But in episode 1, the droids had a very monotone, robotic nature to how they spoke, which really added to the effect that they were droids. They're fucking soulless, mindless machines who just do as they're programmed. That's the point. They're droids. They still had more personality than any stormtrooper, that's for damn sure. But anyway. Where was I going? Oh yeah, CGI. So, the CGI, I still like it. I still like it in a lot of places. There's some scenes so you can look at and go, ooh, that doesn't look that well today, but yeah, I can get over it. I've seen worse. Even Fellowship of the Ring, the first Lord of the Rings movie, when the places that they had to use CGI, and by the way, they actually learned a lot of their CGI techniques from Lucasfilm, so go fuck yourselves. Not to you, my dear listeners, but those people who want to always claim the prequels did nothing for the world, when, if you ask Peter Jackson himself, a lot of their CGI techniques for big shots like of Isengard actually came from them copying techniques that Lucas gave to them when they asked for some help. So whatever. Where I was going with that was I kind of lost my train of thought. That happened again. Jesus Christ. Okay. But you know, okay, yeah, okay. Fellowship of the Ring. There are some scenes where they had to use CGI in that film that don't hold up that well today. You know? What was that one? Like, okay, the scene, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, where the Fellowship is at the door of Durin, trying to get into the mines of Moria. The door is open, they go inside, the Watcher in the water comes out, they attack it, it brings the door and the wall down, and they have to run into the mine. Well, the scene where they're running into the mine, the CGI of the door falling behind them looks really bad. It did not hold up well at all. But that's just one scene in a very great movie, okay? That didn't use a lot of CGI. I get it. And the CGI they did use was very good. They borrowed it from LucasArts. The techniques. Anyway, moving on. Acting. I liked Liam Neeson. I've heard people say Liam Neeson had negative things to say about his part in the role later. I've never found anything to support those claims on the internet, but I didn't dig too deep into it. So if anyone can actually show me where Liam Neeson said, "Oh, his experience with as Qui-Gon Jinn in Episode 1 was really bad," go ahead and send it to me, and I'd believe him. And you know what? He's entitled to his own opinion on the stuff he's worked on before. Liam Neeson said that he was kind of pissed with what happened with the film, or how the direction went, or whatever. Then he's pissed. I liked Qui-Gon. I liked Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon. I can't imagine anyone else being Qui-Gon. Frankly, like most people, especially a lot of fan fiction writers, I believe Anakin Skywalker would have ended up a lot better if Qui-Gon Jinn had been the one to raise/train him as a Jedi, because Obi-Wan Kenobi wasn't fully prepared for that role. That's going a little more into the lore aspect than rather the movie. But they fit in. I liked Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, anyone who says Ewan McGregor's bad at acting, obviously their opinion needs to be disregarded by everybody, because Ewan McGregor is probably one of the best freaking actors out there right now. I've seen him in almost every kind of genre, doing all sorts of movies, and every time he does a great job. The only time I thought he did a bad job at acting, it wasn't because he was doing a bad job, it was because he was playing a freaky character. That's not bad acting. He did a good job at it. Natalie Portman. I didn't have a problem with her acting. I mean, I get that she was supposed to be kind of this uptight monarch character. Even as a little kid, I understood that kings and queens kind of were uptight already and snooty and snottish. And unless you listen to Disney, where they're always rebellious, but those were the princes and princesses. So I mean, I didn't care. I thought she did fine. What was the most awkward dialogue line she had? For me personally, I think it would have to be the very first scene, really, when she's talking to Gunray on his fucking Lucrehulk. Those lines I felt were kind of the most. I really believe you believe those lines, Natalie. But again, I don't have a problem with her acting. I don't have a problem with her, and anyone again who says she's a bad actress, whatever, your opinion, I guess. And she got a little better throughout episode 2 and 3. Shut up. I will get to what I mean by that when I actually do episodes 2 and 3 if I remember. Jake Lloyd. Okay, this is the part where I rambled on for maybe a good 10 minutes about Jake Lloyd in the first recording of this. Let me just start out by saying I'm not going to sit here and blame a little kid who probably was 9, 10, 11 when he did this movie for the failure or success of the film. Anyone who is going to take a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old whatever and blame him for a movie failure or success, if it had been a success or failure, you get a life and get over yourself and your own sense of self goddamn importance. Because you people who won't listen to me or my opinions, because by now you've already clicked off the video because I've offended you so much, who claim to be Star Wars quote-unquote fans and the true quote-unquote fans of Star Wars, and only the original trilogy matters and none of the extended universe matters and none of the prequels matters because only your small little bubble of a fucking world matters, are going to blame and talk shit and bash a little kid for something you didn't like, and you are some teenagers, okay, maybe I could understand that because teenagers are horrible, horrible human beings, most of them. But 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, grown fucking old men treating Jake Lloyd like a piece of shit to the point where this guy, now that he's older, says he doesn't want to be associated with Star Wars, and he's sad he ever did it because people treated him like garbage for so many years of his life just because people didn't like his acting in one fucking film he was in. And people even today make jokes about Jake Lloyd in other films he was in, like the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, just because he's Jake Lloyd, just because he was in episode 1. If he had never been in episode 1, he'd be another no-name kid actor that no one would give a shit about and not talk so much shit about. But because he was Anakin Skywalker in episode 1 and didn't do such a great job, as most kid actors do, you're going to treat him like more of a bigger piece of shit? That doesn't make him a bigger piece of shit. That makes you people who blame a little kid for his acting skills and for the failure of a movie, in your eyes, a piece of shit, okay? Get off your goddamn high horse and stop talking shit about a little kid who can't defend himself, and then, as he's older, don't talk so much shit about about a guy's skill who I don't even think acts anymore. It's like it's like if I saw episode 5 and everyone thought it was a piece of shit movie, right? And I just picked, I don't know, the acting of R2-D2 for the reason why the fucking movie was awful. And everyone agreed with me. Really? You're going to blame a fucking robot? I mean, okay, that might not be a fair analogy, but really, who is going to take a 9, 10, 11-year-old, 12-year-old maybe kid? Okay, more annoying neighbors, so you'll notice a cutoff there again. But okay, back to what I was saying. You're going to take a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, you're going to blame him for the failure of a movie because he didn't act that great. Okay? Could you have done a better job when you were that age at acting? First of all, answer me that. Could you have done a better job? And for those kids who can act very well at that age, you can say they're very talented, they're going to make great actors and actresses, whatever. That's great for them. But most kid actors, first of all, they're not that very well treated, most of them. Most of the time, their parents are the ones who push them into acting. And most of the time, they're acting because people need a kid in a movie, and they look at the kid and they go, okay, it's acceptable. They don't go, oh my god, he's great, he just blew me away with that one scene. No. So, get over yourselves. Get over your own sense of self-importance. Get over your own little bubble on how you believed, and I'll get to that in a minute, the movie should have been, and get over this vitriol and this utter disdain for a little kid's acting, because frankly, between the little kid and you, I think you're a bit more of a fucking baby when you're going to go blame one person. Anyone who comes to me and tells me Jake Lloyd ruined the whole movie for them, otherwise it was fine, needs to look at, first of all, the CGI, the acting from the adults in the film, and the directing from the adult in the film before they blame a kid for the failure of a movie. And that's all I have to say about Jake Lloyd. Because if I keep going, I'm going to make this thing as long as the first time I recorded. Jar Jar as a little kid did not piss me off as much as other people. I have met plenty of people who don't mind Jar Jar even, so... But I'm not going to sit here and defend him like, he's the greatest thing in the universe. I get why people don't like him. I get why some people hate him. I get why a lot of people blame him for the failure of the movies, but again, I'm not going to sit here and blame one character for the failing of an entire franchise, supposedly. Especially when in episode 3 he had no lines at all, and in episode 2 he only had a couple, and I could get into a whole discussion about why Jar Jar is an important character, and not just because, oh my god, Jar Jar gave the Emperor all he needed to become Emperor, oh man, he's really evil Emperor in disguise. No, he's not. I'm not going to get into that. Maybe I'll get into that when I do the episode 2 video, but, needless to say, Jar Jar is not nearly as useless as people claim him to be, and Jar Jar is not nearly as bad as some people think he is, but, admittedly, he is pretty goddamn annoying. But, when it comes to the music of all the prequels, I will staunchly defend them as being way better than most of the stuff in the originals. The originals had the Imperial March and its variants, and that was really great, memorable music, and the Force theme and the Star Wars entrance scenes, which got carried over to the prequels. But the prequels had a lot more memorable themes, a lot more bombastic, Duel of the Fates, Battle of the Heroes, stuff like that. Episode 2, not so much. I'll get there when I get there on episode 2. Episode 1 had this tone to it that as a little kid I appreciated more, and even as an adult I appreciate more than the originals. The originals had a very dark, dreary, kind of dulled tone, which makes sense because the Empire is a very dull, dark, dreary tone, and that kind of has the feel put on to the rest of the galaxy, and old movie too. And the movies are meant to feel that way until you get to episode 6, where things kind of get a little more colorful, a little more lighthearted. We'll put it that way when it comes to Ewoks. But certainly there's more color and lighter tone. There's not more I can say there, but I don't know. Episodes 1, 2, and 3, they certainly have that feeling of there's a lot more color. There's more. I don't want to say diversity because that kind of sounds a little cliche, but there's a lot more color. There's a lot more lighter tone, but still with some of the moodiness, especially when you get into scenes with the Emperor and Darth Maul, stuff like that. And then, of course, episode 1 gave us Darth Maul, who lasted about 20 minutes, and then somehow spawned an entire fan base just on his little appearance in the first movie, which, I'm perfectly fine with believing he died in episode 1. I really could care less about what Clone Wars says. I really could care less about Clone Wars in general. To me, Darth Maul died in episode 1. That's just how it is. Is a little picky and choosy about, my extended universe canon, but to me, Clone Wars is kind of on the edge of being canon to me. I accept some stuff, but, just some of the things that show did for the whole universe it doesn't sit well with me in a lot of places. I already knew, like everyone else, Palpatine was like, okay, that's obviously an evil character. Although I knew some people in school who didn't get that. That always got to me, but I think most people, when they saw episode 1, already were like, oh, okay, so that's the Emperor. Oh, okay. He had the same damn facial structure, so, and when I get down to it, what I think, I really hate about people who don't like this movie, especially opposed to other movies. So a lot of people seem to want to pick on episode 1, opposed to episodes 2 and 3. And I like YouTube titles, I swear to God, of episode 1, critiquers, where it's like, what if episode 1 was good? Well, guess what, assholes? Some people think episode 1 was good. What if, episode 1 was this way? Or what if episode 1 did this? Or what if episode 1 did that? It's like, if anyone wants to try and talk about how episode 1 would have been a great movie and what would make it a great movie. And you know what? That's fine. It's your own personal opinion. But what people don't seem to understand is that what you mean by what if episode 1 was good, or what if episode 1 had been this way, or what if episode 1 had been that way. You're not talking about an overall theme of people coming together and like some sort of conclave of Star Wars fans saying, this idea is what episode 1 should have been. You're talking about your own personal fucking expectations that weren't met when the movie came out, that haven't been met because the movie came out and is an official canon and cannot be remade under contract by Disney with Lucas. Therefore, you're going to harp on how the movie was awful because you personally expected Obi-Wan to be like this. You personally expected Anakin to be like that. You personally expected this to be that way, that to be this way. No. It's just, it astounds me that people are so mad at the prequels because they didn't meet their own personal expectations based on what they saw with the original trilogy. That what am I trying to say? You had a vision for what episodes 1, 2, and 3 would have in them. And instead of let Lucas, who admittedly makes many mistakes, instead of letting him come up with his own design and his own lore with his own universe, you just automatically hate everything he does because he decided to have his own right to do with his own story what he wanted, instead of consult all your friends who didn't like the movie, you didn't like the movie, everyone who didn't like the movie. He needed to consult you personally and find out what to make this movie to make you personally happy. And that's the problem with almost all prequel sequels, where the person making the film has to go, okay, how am I going to make a movie that's going to appease all my fans? And they eventually have to come to the conclusion that they're not going to appease all the fans. They're likely going to alienate a large portion of the fan base because they have to do things that work, first of all, for the context of the first movies that came out to work, and maybe they have some creative desires of their own. And first of all, don't even try and get me started with the episode 7 debacle because I'm not even going to go there. But frankly, it's like, to me, the argument is there shouldn't have been any creative freedom. And again, don't get me started on episode 7 because I could tell you why that's bullshit with the creative freedom argument. There just should have been some guy listening to me telling, and then I should have told him how episode 1 should have worked. It's like, God, I've heard some of the dumbest things come out. What was the one thing? I heard someone, I don't know who it was, whose opinion they're entitled to it, I don't care. Someone thought that it shouldn't have been Anakin, it should have been Padme who should have been the one kind of pushing for a relationship and somehow seduced Anakin, and it was her fault, all her fault, and not his own fault. It's like, what would that have accomplished? It would have been the same goddamn outcome. What, so you can blame the woman in the situation for Darth Vader coming to be? Oh, okay. Whatever, I guess that works. Some people were... Okay, this one was even dumber. This one was someone, I believe I saw in a YouTube comment maybe a long time ago, who said that they were holding out hope that it was really Obi-Wan who was Luke Skywalker's father. And I was just kind of like... You can't see my face right now, but it was just... it's like, really? The reason why the prequels didn't work for you was because you were waiting for Anakin Skywalker to be an irrelevant character. Right. Okay, gotcha. Great logic there. 100% behind you. And then other just dumb things like, how they expected Palpatine to be, even though most people say, oh, Palpatine's actor is great, his character is great, I don't care. How people expected the mother of Luke Skywalker and Leia to be, who they expected her to be. Like, you know, the whole Queen business. They didn't want that. They wanted, I don't know, another Jedi. What would that have, again, what would it have accomplished? It would have been the same outcome because the originals were already there. But at this point, you're arguing fucking semetics or semantics, whatever, where you want something to happen in a scenario that's going to inevitably lead to a conclusion you already know happens to another conclusion of the end of episode 6. You're arguing about the beginning to the conclusion to the beginning of another conclusion. There's no point in it. So it's easier to, it's better for you not to know and for your expectations to be dashed for something you're not expecting to happen, but you'd rather have it in some stupid fashion meet your expectations and be the way you want it to be, rather than let things happen and come out the way that they're going to come out and see how it happens. For the prequels, it's different for me than, again, with episode 7, 8, 9. I'm not going to go there, but I just don't understand what people who went to see these films were thinking they were going to get out of it. You know, it's like, what? I don't know if they were expecting the story to, like, automatically show a young Anakin. Like, if they thought maybe that was the Obi-Wan role. Like, he should have been, like, a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 19-year-old, or something like that, and should have started there. I don't know what more they could have done with that. I don't know. I don't know what people's expectations were. For me, the movie works. For me, I like the characters. For me, I like the droids. Again, I've already said this, but the droids were far more interesting compared to stormtroopers. They had more personality. The B-1 battle droids in episode 1 were a lot more intimidating than stormtroopers. I'll just say that. They got a little less intimidating because of the childish BS that kind of got perpetrated by other media, but whatever. Whatever. I like the tanks, I like the technology, I like the CGI, I liked the vastness and the openness of the galaxy. I like the idea of all these worlds and the lush greens of Naboo, the stale dirtiness of Tatooine, the cityscape of Coruscant, you know. And then that's another thing of the prequels. The prequels have a much more lush and color vibrant galaxy than the originals, and that's a tone difference. It's meant to be that way. I get that, and it works. But I don't know. I like the idea of there being an open, lush, colorful galaxy rather than the dull, moody, dreary. Oh my god, my life existence is crap. Again, I get the tone, but I appreciate the prequels tone a lot better. It's just how I like it. I liked seeing the Jedi Council. I liked seeing what the Jedi were. I like how they were very political and how that fit into a lot of lore, and on even episodes 2 and 3 later, how it was like, this is not how it's supposed to be. They're not supposed to be this political. They're not supposed to be like this. They're not supposed to. I mean, even Mace Windu in episode 2, he's like, we're supposed to be, protectors of the peace. We're not soldiers. We're not warriors. We're not an army. We can't protect the entire Republic. Even if you begged us to, we couldn't. That works. I mean, I'll get more into that when I get to episode 2. But, seeing the political downfall of the Republic, to me, was very interesting. Seeing the foundations of it is very interesting. Seeing people get screwed over by a guy you know is fucking evil and wanting to reach into the screen and whisper to that person, he's evil. That was very interesting to me. Even today, I watched the film and I like it. You're not ever going to make me not like the film. You're not ever going to try. You're never going to change my opinion. I'm never going to change your opinion, imaginary person. When you don't like the film, and that's fine. We're allowed to have differing opinions. But when you're going to come to me and you're going to make me feel, again, I've already said this plenty of times, so I'm sure I sound like a broken record, but when you're going to come to me and tell me how much of a fucking useless asshole I am because I happen to like a set of films you don't like, well, go fuck yourself, buddy. I don't have to like your films. You don't have to like my films. You know, that's one of the greatest things about humans. We're allowed to have different fucking opinions, and you know what? We have free will. Use it and go complain about me on a forum somewhere, okay? Don't concern yourself so much with what I do and do not like, and concern yourself with what you do and do not like. Because if you're going to spend your whole life complaining about things other people besides yourselves like, and they're not hurting the world, I mean like benign things like movies and comic books and video games, then you really need to start looking into what's going on in the world, because there are a lot more important things going on that you could be part of and complaining about, rather than some asshole liking a movie you don't happen to like. And then, you know, blaming a little kid for the failure of that movie or whatever. A final note, as a little kid, I didn't understand that Anakin and Padme were supposed to end up being, a couple. So, I thought it was really benign in the first movie. I was like, oh, look, they're friends. And then when I was a little kid and then I saw episode 2, I was like, oh, look, they're not friends. But I think I'm going to save my full opinions on how that all worked out for episodes 2 and 3. When it comes to the prequels, episode 3 is my favorite. 1's in the middle. 2 is last. Not because I don't like the film, but only because number 2 out of all the 3 is just... It's the most benign to me, personally, of the 3 prequels. And that doesn't make it bad. That just means that of the other 3, of all 3 of them, I just happen to like 3 and 1 better than 2. I still like 2. In fact, if I had to say all 6 movies, I said I wouldn't do this, but I'd say episode 3 is my favorite. Then episode 1's my favorite after that. Then Empire Strikes Back. Then Empire Strikes Back, Attack of the Clones, Return of the Jedi, New Hope. New Hope I just find to be a little boring. That's just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with it. That's a great thing about us. You don't have to agree with me. So yeah. Episode 1, you can hate it all you want, but you're never going to convince me to hate it, and guess what? It's never going to go away. And, this is just kind of my story for how I came into knowing episode 1. Maybe it helped you understand a little bit why I don't hate it. Maybe it just helped you listen to me ramble about a movie for a long time. Either way, tell me what you thought about episode 1. Did you not like episode 1? Did you think episode 1 was going to turn out a different way? And again, if you thought the movie was going to turn out a certain way, and it didn't, and that pissed you off, that's fine. But when you put onto the film the idea that the film is somehow a failure just because it didn't meet your expectations, then that's the problem. Because you can't go and blame a film for dashing your expectations when the director is not you. You can't expect your expectations to be met in a film whose conclusion has already been met. Episode 1 was being created with the known fact the conclusion of the overall story was already completed in episode 6. So therefore, all beliefs and ideas on your part were already benign. So, go ahead and tell me what you thought the movie was going to turn out to be. Did you not like what it turned out to be? Obviously. There's going to be somebody. Do you not like Jake Lloyd? I don't know. Go ahead and just give me your opinions on episode 1. And, I'll get out the episode 2 recording some point in the future. And then episode 3. Maybe I'll do 4, 5, and 6, but, most people don't really like to hear people's opinions on the originals because most people seem to just go, oh, the originals. Everybody loves the originals. So there's no point in hearing about people's opinions on the matter. But, yeah, I just wanted to make these on a kind of a whim, and again, I apologize if it seems a little clunky. My neighbors, for some reason, are having some sort of spat and got kind of loud. So there might be a couple jumps in places. But anyway, I will have you all happily listen to me at some point in the future. No, seriously. Until the next time, people. Peace.